Hi guys, Killian here, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little different. I'm not going to be teaching you anything or showing you how to do any ads or going through TikTok or Pinterest or talk about social media, but instead, I'm going to talk a bit about where I am in my indie author career and my publishing goals, and basically why my February has crashed and burned already despite January just being last month and me having all of these goals for 2020 and all of these things or whatever. But I want to talk to you about how I intend on fixing this. And when I first started making these videos, I promised you that I would take you with me on my author journey, show you my failures and how I intend to fix them, and the process of being a writer and being an indie writer so that you don't make the same mistakes that I do, and as well as you can see me rise above them, how I fix these mistakes and how I still aim for success. So that's what this video is going to be about. 2 weeks ago, I published a video on imposter syndrome, and I talked a little bit about why I was feeling imposter syndrome this month and how it was kind of wearing me down and what I was doing in order to improve it. If you want to go back for that video, just click on the video above. It'll come up somewhere. And last month, I talked about the S.M.A.R.T goals for 2020. And that's something else that I want to touch up on. Every month, I like to look back at those S.M.A.R.T goals. And if you missed that video and you don't know what S.M.A.R.T goals are, it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So I'm not going to touch up on how I create those S.M.A.R.T goals in my plan, but I do want to mention that even though my goals were very specific and I had an actionable plan for completing each of them and they were measurable and timely, sometimes you need to make room for error. And I will get into what happened this month that I keep talking around so that you understand. So some of my goals for this year was to publish the rest of my series. And book 2 was going to be published February 14th, and I did it. I did publish book 2 of my series, Reapers of the Veil, February 14th. This is actually it right here. The Scapegoat Demon. I love the cover. My cover designer is amazing. Unfortunately, I am taking books 1 and 2 off the shelf. I'm unpublishing my series. So this is what happened. I had a critique partner for some of my short stories as well as book 3 in my series that I was writing and editing as I was going to have it prepared to give to my editor. And it's really loud. I'm so sorry. Well, because she was editing my critique partner, who was also my editor for my short stories, she was familiar with my voice in my short stories, and when she started reading for book 3, she was still very familiar with it, but then she decided to pick up book 1 to basically get some backstory because she was like diving into the 3rd book of my series without really having any backstory, which was really wonderful that she did that. And she basically was like, whoa, what happened to your voice, to your style of writing? This isn't it. And also, your characters are kind of old for young adult. That is something that I have had in the back of my mind from the moment I received my manuscript from my editor the very first day. That my characters, she had told me that it is for young adult or middle grade. I completely disagreed with middle grade because my character, Addison, is 22 years old. Actually, in book 1, she's 21. In book 2, she's a year passes, so in book 2, she's 22. I'm rewriting that, and I think I'm going to change the time lapse anyways, but anyways, that's for later. Here's the thing. I am by no means this is all my fault. Because when I first started writing it, I was just writing. I had a story that I wanted to tell. Part of that story were from my very memories and my past, and the house, Paradise House, I hold it dear to me because it's actually a house that I grew up in, that my grandfather designed and had constructed for us to live in. So I grew up in the house that I talk about in these books. So it means a lot to me. When I first started writing and I wanted to be a writer, I never actually stopped to do the proper research in the different genres and actually choose a genre that I wanted to write in and become familiar with and know and learn how to market for. I just started to write because I had a story that I wanted to put out. So I just started writing and kind of just thought, okay, I'll give it to my editor. And as I did, as I joined groups and, learned from other indie authors and bought books on self-publishing, I started to realize, where does my book fit in? And when I got it back from my editor, she said, well, this is great for middle grade or young adult. And I just went with it. I mean, I did ask, well, what about my character being over the age of 18? And she said, well, it doesn't really all have to do with just your character. It has to do with voice and tone and all of these things I didn't really understand because I hadn't really done the proper research. This is all my fault because my editor was just doing her job. And, her job is to make your manuscript into the best version that it can be for that genre that you're writing for, or that in her case, that she feels it should be placed in. So the way that it's edited is more focused for the young adult market, I feel. In hindsight, looking back, it's like, yeah, okay, so a lot of these things, a lot of the inner monologue was deleted. A lot of maybe adultier things didn't go into the book if it's going to be marketed for young adult. And so my critique partner recently, when all of this, when she was like, you can't market this for young adult, you have to kind of rewrite the character so that she's younger. But see, that would send a domino effect because my character is old enough to live with a roommate by herself. She drives out to the Keys because she gets hired for a nursing position. If I'm to write her as a 16 or 17-year-old girl just to force the book into young adult, it's going to change a lot of things. And I molded over for nights. I had imposter syndrome tremendously. I had anxiety. I was stressed out because it's like I've just written 3 books and published 2. People have been reading these books, okay? I had a book launch at Books and Books in Miami. I paid for blog tours. I have Amazon ads, which I've now canceled, and now I have to unpublish everything just to rewrite it. And then, my critique partner told me, listen, do not dismay. Okay, I think the best way for you to handle this is to rewrite it in new adult. And she had actually mentioned, you don't really need to rewrite it, it'll fit into new adult. But remembering back what my editor had told me is it really doesn't fit strongly enough into new adult. And I'm the person that I feel like either go all in and do it 100% well or don't do it at all. I don't want to half-ass my marketing, excuse my French, okay? I don't want to just say, forget it, I want to be over with it and just do it because that's going to end up hurting me in the long run. All of this would have been a waste of money. Maybe not a waste of time because I'm learning, but if I'm going to market it in something else, I want to now take the opportunity and the time to do the research into new adult, which, by the way, is an indie genre. If you're in traditional publishing, I heard that new adult isn't really a thing. So what it is urban fantasy is what I'm writing, but because my characters are a little bit past college or college age, that's the age group that I'm focusing in. Now, with new adult, they're more focused in relationships within each other. And even though there is a haunting going on in the house, I still need to really work on my character's attitude, her inner monologue, the relationships that she's in, and really beef that up and make it into the right book for that marketing, for that, market or audience. Whew. So that is where I'm at. And at first I did not want to do that, but I started actually, because I'm a writer, so I started getting like these little ideas of, oh, what if she says this or she does that, or, oh, this is a good plot twist, and then suddenly a little fire sparked back into my creative mind, and I calmed down. I took a chill pill, and I was like, you know what? Just like I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So then I started to do more research in new adult. I bought a few books and I started reading them to try to get into the character. And I'm going to rebrand my entire series. In fact, it is no longer even going to be called The Haunting at Paradise House. So far, the series is still Reapers of the Veil. And I'm trying to decide on if I want to keep that. But the Reapers are such a strong focus in my series that I think it does belong. I haven't decided on the titles yet, but title reveals will be coming soon. And I'm excited. This is exciting. I do feel I do feel bad that my young adult readers are like, I have to tell my mailing list, I'm sorry, this is what's happening, and then give them an opt-out option. And I have to tell, just people on social media, not to mention family and friends who really like the young adult series, what's happening. But I feel that this is the best move for my series. This doesn't mean, though, that I'm never going to write in young adult again, because I do actually like young adult. And ever since I started, or in my mind, I was writing in young adult, I was actually reading other young adult books, and I do like the young adult genre. And I've had a few ideas that I put down for young adult. So in the future, I'm probably going to revisit that. But I don't want to move into a different series until I finish one first. I like to finish what I start, go all in and do it well, and then move on to the next thing. Mind you, during breaks or at night when I'm just, tired of working on my work in progress, I will, have my creative process going and taking notes if I get them and this and that. But I put them in a different folder on my Google Docs. This is series idea number whatever title, and I leave it there and I revisit whenever I have another idea for it. But I'm not going to start writing another book. I know that in one of my videos, probably the very first one, I was like, yes, because I have this idea and I can't help but write it and get it out. That hasn't actually been completed. Speaking of SMART goals, I haven't been writing on it ever since I found out this little catastrophe that I'm going through now. This is a huge learning curve. And it's something else that this is also why I'm making this video, because I'm rewriting it. Oh, and I'm rewriting it in first person because a lot of these urban fantasy books are written in first person. So I don't want to throw a third person past book out there into a genre where the readers are expecting, oh, I prefer a book that's more in the character's head and in that POV. So I'm literally rewriting it from the top, first person, and changing a whole lot of stuff around, which is, I like the way it's reading now, so it's pretty cool. I've also noticed that there are some scenes missing. I don't know how it happened, because when I got my book back, I read through everything, but sometimes you just see the same thing. By looking at your manuscript over and over, you miss a lot of stuff sometimes. And so I had two creatures different. I'm going to call them creatures just to group them, but it was one hellhound and the main demon was morphed into one character. This was like at the end of like chapter 7 or 8, I think. I don't remember. I think it was chapter 7. But it's like, how did that happen and how did I miss it? So I've seen this as an opportunity to really take my book to the next level and make it the best version itself that it can be, and one that I am actually truly happy with and proud of. So it's a learning curve, and I am not upset anymore. I am sad to tell everyone that the way you are reading it, you know, for certain people, for example, you know, like my 13-year-old sister who reads in young adult, my new adult book is probably not going to be appropriate for her age. So that sucks. But she will get older and then she can read it. I'm still trying to work out what I do in those scenes that new adults prefer, some sort of steaminess or more, relationship interaction that isn't appropriate for young kids. I know that there is a young adult, new adult crossover, but I really haven't gotten to that area in my book yet that I have to really see what I need to do. I know that for the ending of the series, I have a plot twist brewing in my head that will require some sort of scene that, well, you get the idea. So yeah, that part kind of blows for the young ones who were actually liking the series. Okay, so that's what happened, and this is how I intend to fix it. I have the opportunity now to start over, right? Okay, so I needed to go into my website and take down The Haunting at Paradise House, and that includes my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram doesn't have like a header, but I'm going to make an announcement there by the time this video comes out. What else? Anything else that, I think YouTube also. So anything else that has like a banner and saying, get the scapegoat demon now, and, talks about The Haunting of Paradise House and all of the buttons of where to click, taking it out, unpublished. And now I need to replace that with something else. I'm not sure if I'm going to change my actual like profile picture of me as Killian Wolf. I'm wearing like the little witch's hat, because I may write in young adult in the future. I'm not sure yet though if I want to just have another professional picture taken and that can fit into both, because I feel like the witch's hat picture is very friendly and nice and sweet, and now that I'm in urban fantasy, it's a little bit more darker and more my voice. So I still have to think about that, but that is not that's not that important right now. But I am taking the opportunity to work on my brand colors and how I want to be represented, how I want to represent myself as Killian Wolf out to the world, that you can see the cover of my book and say, oh, that's probably Killian Wolf. Yep. And it matches her YouTube, it matches her Facebook, it matches her Twitter, her Instagram. It basically resonates me. So that's something about branding that before I kind of did it backwards. I had the covers made and then I was like, oh, I need to do all of these things, and it kind of fit the colors of my series, which I'm not really that much of a fan into blue. I'm more into like the burnt colors, the oranges, the reds, the black. I love black, which is funny. My favorite color is green, but maybe even dark greens. I have to think about it. So I might actually make a video series later on. I'm not sure if I'm going to start it next week or maybe the week after on branding, because I've had some experience now in branding, the first time kind of messing up, and then now really looking at it from a bird's eye view with this new opportunity that I can start fresh. So I am doing research and looking at the best ways that I can make myself stand out as an author and make my books pop. So that is, I have to appreciate that blessing that just came out of this kind of mess. Speaking of blessings, something else too is I have learned so much about tone and voice and genre. I'm a completely different writer than I was a year ago. Because before, I still didn't really understand how I could write a specific tone. I still hadn't really found my voice. And you know what's funny is I did know my voice in writing. I just didn't realize that's what it was until it was pointed out to me by my critique partner when she said, who's now my editor, who said, look at your short stories. You know, it's like if Tim Burton had written The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now read the first paragraph of The Haunting of Paradise House. It's very censored. So it's very different. My book now is reading very different. And I have now written like that those first 2 pages. I have it now in a new adult urban fantasy tone, which I mean now I'm down like halfway through the book, but I also have written that first 2 pages in an adult fiction horror tone. I've been playing around with the different tones, which has made me so much better as a writer. I now have a way different perspective, and I feel like I can write anything in any way, in any tone. And I've been playing around with that with my writing, and it's so much fun. So now I feel like I can go on and write a freaking nonfiction book about voice and tone, which I won't, not yet. I will in the future, this series first. And I want more experience and more examples that I can give when I do end up writing that book. So that in itself, that knowledge, that experience is such a blessing. So that's something else that I wanted to tell you. Going back to the beginning of this video, talking about how my February crashed and burned, you know, and how I had all of these goals described in my SMART goal strategy. And it's okay. It's okay, because you have to have room for error, room for failure, so that you can learn, you can fix it, you can grow, and you can move on. I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm not saying, oh, well, I tried. No, this is something that I'm passionate about and I really want to do. So I'm going to start over and I'm going to do it well. I mean, shit, I already have the books written. I just need to rewrite them. So they will be out again this year, rebranded. And by next year, I will have the entire series out, hopefully by early next year. But if not, you know, at some point. And there might be a book 5 in the manner that I want to end book 4. There might be a book 5, which is funny because I know that in one of my videos I mentioned this was meant to be a standalone. Then I had a book 2, and then I was like, all right, I'll stop at 3. And then I was like, oh, perfect. 1 more book, end of series. Nope. That's funny how it happens, but that's something else that's a blessing. Now I can look down at the series in a bird's eye view and interweave it all together so that it works better as a series. That's an advice or a tip that I have for you. Don't rush to publish. Don't just want to get it out there. Okay, if you want to write a series, you need to know where you're going to leave the little breadcrumbs. So if you can just write everything and then wait and then kind of go back for another round from the top to the end of the book series to see how you can, or when you're plotting it, you know, people write different, see where you can go back and leave little breadcrumbs or leave little foreshadowings for like something that happens in the next book or something like that. Another advice I want to give you is, if you are just thinking about being an indie author and you have not written a book yet, let my experience here in having to rewrite a series of 3 books so far. I had actually started writing the 4th one and I've stopped so far, but let this be an example for you. Choose your genre, choose your market, and read a lot first and try writing in different tones, in different genres, and see what feels natural to you, see what you like best before you go all in. Or you might see yourself going back to the beginning and rewriting everything, which is completely fine. It will make you that much of a better writer. But if you want to save time, heed my advice. And you know, like what I had said before, that when I first started writing, I just started writing and I didn't worry about what genre I was writing in or anything. I just wanted to get the story out and then worry about it later. And that's totally fine. Write what is in your heart, write what you love, and then figure out how to market it later. That's totally okay. A lot of us just write because we are expressing ourselves and we're finding a creative outlet to express whatever we have inside in forms of stories. So, you know, not all of us are going to logistically think, okay, I'm going to be a writer. And now let me look up all of these, you know, strategies and logistics on how I'm going to be a successful one. Not everyone does that. I know I've heard of a few people who have done that, which is, man, that's amazing. I wish that I had known to do that. I wish I had, like, somebody had told me, hey, wait, if you want to write a book, read this first. And maybe I wouldn't have even listened. I would have been like, yeah, okay, maybe later I need to get to writing. You know, who knows? Who knows? You know, we all get to where we need to be at the time that we get to where we need to be, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're just going to write just to write and then figure it out later, this may happen, this may not happen. But if it does, all I'm trying to say is don't stress out. Don't stress out. I mean, you might freak out a little bit. I know I did, and that's normal. But this is the beauty of being an indie author. I can unpublish and do it all again. And I talk about that in that imposter syndrome video, if you want to check it out. So basically, that's my advice. If this sort of thing happens to you, chill. Chill, because it's not the end of the world. And now you're going to learn how to hone your craft that much better. That can really, really help out your career. And crossing my fingers that it does help out mine, but I already feel like my writing in this first book is so much better. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you liked this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that like button, ring that little bell so that you can get a notification every time I have a new video out. And just keep writing. You know, don't dismay. If this ever happens to you, just remember, hey man, you're an indie author. Just unpublish, rebrand. It's all right. It might take you a little bit longer and you might feel like I'm not where I wanted to be at this time because I had to start over, but it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't, because at the end of that journey for the series, it's going to be that much stronger, that much better, and it'll all be worth it in the end. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.